they're good players, if you know what I mean. Like no dicking around with like bong. I swear to God, if CJ puts a bong today, I'm just gonna like have a fit. Anyway, yes, it is serious mode time. It is Jadong face time, and indeed it is going to be Classic here, who is 7-5. You know, not exactly the biggest name player, but he's been doing pretty well this season. He's 1-0 in TBT, and of course he is the man who has a win off of Flash in TBT. So that's pretty awesome. Excuse me. If you're wondering how I'm seeing the game distribution thing, there was a handy dandy thread by Chutter guy thing. I don't know, his name sounds kind of like Cheddar, but it's not really. Yeah, I'll link it if anyone's curious. Oh, I'm also going to link the other thread that's like the playoff math thing if anyone hasn't seen that. Mods should just feel free to like link those periodically in the chat, just because I'm sure people will be asking. It's Chudrata. Okay, I think I will just call you like Cheddar then. So, here we go into set number 1. In the bottom right corner as the white Terran, we do have Leta. And in the top right, as the blue Terran, we will have Classic. Now I believe, wait a minute, actually now that I think about it, you know that story that Artosis always tells about Leta, how he like proxy racked someone and did a ceremony and made Artosis really mad? Was that actually against Flash? Because I have a feeling that that was actually against Flash, but I can't remember. I might be thinking of somebody else or a different game or something. But if that was actually against Flash, then both of these guys, in fact, have wins over Lee Young Ho, which is pretty awesome. Oh, apparently it was. Nice! It was versus Flash. Alright, yeah. I remember that game. So, that's a pretty awesome win to have on your record, right? You know, so like you're submitting your CV to pro gaming teams. You're like, so what have you accomplished in Brew War? It's like, well, I beat Flash once with proxy racks. Like, oh my God, you are hired. What does that kid have in his hair? What is that? Is that, wait, was that actually a girl wearing a headband? Because I totally thought that was like a little boy, but you know, obviously with little kids, it's like hard to tell. They're like non-gendered. Anyway, is that actually a gas before racks here? What's going on? What on earth is going on? I mean, Classic is doing the good old, you know, I'm a proxy racks in TBT because I think I'm Flash, but not really. But look at this, look at this. We have a super ultra fast gas from Leta, so I'm pretty sure he's going 2-port Wraith. Because Leta loves his 2-port Wraith, and there's really no other strategy where it makes sense to get such a fast gas. So I think that's what's going on here. And that should be quite exciting, because Leta's 2-port Wraith is actually ridiculously good. That's in fact what he is known for. Kind of like how Shine is known for Hydro Busting. It's kind of like that. Except like, this takes more skill. So, unfortunately for Classic, he did proxy his racks on the wrong side of the map. I mean, he basically like took a 50-50 chance. He's like, well, I really hope my opponent spawned either top left or bottom left. And it's like a 2/3 chance, right? And then he messed it up. So not only is Classic bad at coin flipping, he can't even like flip a loaded coin. You know, if there was like a coin that was loaded to land on heads 2/3 of the time, he would still mess it up. So good job, Classic. That's pretty skillful too. Man, I'm really hateful today. I don't know why. I apologize. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'll try not to be too mean. Unless like Bong comes out, then I'll be really mean. Okay, so Leta's factory is a little bit further along, but he's gonna start feeling some pressure here on the front. Ooh, whoa! Classic wasn't paying attention there. Actually took a couple of free shots on his Marine. Unfortunately for Leta, though, he's actually getting bunkered at his wall here, and this is one reason why walling in TBT is not always recommended. On flat maps at least. Obviously you can't do this to people on ramped maps. Well, I guess you can, but it doesn't really work. See, now Leta's in a funny position because he can't even lift his, open his front door to go out and kill this, because then he'd like have to stop stop marine production. Like he's gonna lose that depot. He's gonna have to bring the barracks back. There's absolutely nothing he can do about this. And this is actually like this isn't actually anything crazy either. This is actually, well, I don't want to say common, but like if you play BGH a lot, this shit happens all the time. It's actually kind of crazy. It's like if you wall, because BGH is flat, right? So basically, if you're on a flat map and you wall in TVT, and he comes up to your base and he has a marine advantage, you better prepare to get bunkered. Anyway, that vulture is going to prevent anything serious from going on. He actually kills the SCV, and he's adding on a machine chop, so it might actually be a vulture drop here, rather than 2-port Wraith, because he's got the starport. He's got the starport, but he's getting machine chop, and he's not getting a second starport. So this actually definitely looks like a vulture drop. Meanwhile, we do see an expansion follow-up from Classic, although he did get his factory first as well. It's not like he just proxy racks into expanded. Only Flash does that. Anyway, looks like he's found his scouting SCV again, which did go to the bottom left. And looks like the barracks is floating in here. Unfortunately for Classic, he's actually floating in the wrong direction. That's a very cute little hiding location for the starport from Leta, because a lot of the Terran players will actually just build their important buildings kind of at the bottom of the base where the barracks is floating now. So that was kind of correct for Classic to float his thing down there. Whoa, do you really need 3 SCVs? That's interesting. Presumably because he knew that the tank would be out at this time, so he brought the SCVs to repair. That's really interesting, but I don't know if that's worth it. Like, is that really worth it? Oh, because he had spider mines about to finish. Maybe that's why he did that. So he wanted to buy some time to plant more mines. Wow, that's very interesting. So I think he knew roughly that the tank would be coming out in time, and tanks do outrange bunkers even without siege. So he'd start to get that down. But Classic wanted to keep that up in time for the mines to finish, and then now he just abandons it. Look at that. But he did sacrifice some mine time though, pulling 3 SCVs down from his base. That's actually really interesting, huh? Anyway, it's actually gonna be 1-port cloaked Wraiths here. Sorry. So I've miscalled this twice now. I said 2-port Wraith and then I said vulture drop, and it's apparently neither. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe like all my SC2 casting is wearing off on me, and I've just decided to like not be right ever again. Which is fine, because, you know, a lot of successful casters are often not right. So the cloak is finished now. The column sets are just started. And to this rate, he's going to pick off a couple SCVs. It's not really going to be a big deal here. I mean, look at this. Classic even try and pull some of these SCVs, and it's going to buy him a little bit of extra time as well. But it's really fine. He's going to lose like 4 SCVs. Yeah. Look at him actually like manually pulling these. A lot of players actually won't even bother doing this. They'll just like let the SCVs die, because as you can see, the Wraith can chase it down easily anyway. So I mean, at best it buys you like 2 extra seconds or something. But you know, that 2 seconds can make a difference. It can make a difference, and there's really no reason not to pull the SCV, I guess. So that's quite nice. Anyway, barracks is going to get taken down. It's going to be marginally annoying for Classic, but he already added on his second factory, so it's not a huge deal. You can just remake that. And of course, Classic's expansion was a lot faster here, and he only lost 3 SCVs to that Wraith, so he should be in a good position here economically. Although I guess I should also say that, of course, he did sacrifice some economy in the beginning to go for the proxy racks. But still, I think he's in a pretty nice spot here, although the supplies are dead even, in fact. 46 to 45. So not dead even, but close enough. And those are very suspicious. I believe those are going to both go and build proxy starports at some random location. Or not really proxy, but hidden starports. Something we've seen a couple of times this season in Pro League. And going out as a pair like that is quite suspicious. They're heading to the top left main. I don't know, I guess we'll see. Anyway, the Wraith's coming back in for another round. They do have cloak, as you can see, but there should be plenty of scans for this. He's not actually scanning yet, because his units are out of position. You don't want to just like throw down a scan willy-nilly when you see the Wraiths come in. Like, some players will just panic and scan when they don't actually have any units in position, and that's pretty dumb. You should actually wait for your units to be in position to actually kill it. So, as I said, the two hidden starports have gone down, but unfortunately for Classic, Leta is actually too smart for this, and he's actually going to see this with these Wraiths, and that's just going to be bad news bears. He can actually pick off these SCVs before they finish and force cancels. And he's even trying to imitate a little flash twitch here. Look at Leta. Oh god, GIFs now! I demand GIFs, guys. I know somebody has like an automatic GIF machine. Gonna GIF that for me right now. Anyway, so Leta pulled off the little flash map hack Twitch thing, and found the starports. This seems to be something that like Terran players must be doing this all the time in practice, because it's like the third time we've seen it in Pro League. But you know, the last time somebody did it, it got scouted immediately by the other player as well. It just seems that one of the common responses now to having one player go 1-4 Cloak Wraith is to like hide 2 starports of your own. You know, previously players would just do the standard factory play and just get a bunch of Goliaths and maybe a turret or two and just be fine. But now it looks like players actually just want to counter Wraiths with Wraiths. So that's very, very interesting. Meanwhile, it looks like the plan has been completely abandoned for Classic, and he's just gonna throw down 2 additional factories in his main. Unfortunately, that move might have actually put Leta a little bit ahead, because I mean, you know, he lost the 2 SCVs building that, but more importantly, he tied up a lot of his resources there for a long time. Like, those 2 starports were actually almost finished. So, you know, he had the 300, 200, or whatever it costs just tied up for a really, really long time. Wait, actually, how much does the starport cost? Is it 150, 100? I can't remember. Anyway. Factory is 200, 100, so I can't imagine that the starport's actually... Is starport actually cheaper than a factory? It could be. Anyway, more SCV's gonna get picked off here. Leta, as usual, doing some pretty superb Wraith harass. I mean, honestly, he's made these really, really worth it. Even though I've been saying the whole time that he hasn't done that much damage, it's just like, it's slowly adding up over time, because he's not ever losing these Wraiths. So he's just picking up the odd SCV here and there, and eventually, you know, they'll stack up, he'll just rack up the kill count. Meanwhile, he is also doing a drop here at the back, and I don't think Classic is aware of this at all. Oh my goodness, this is really bad. I am actually a little bit surprised that he didn't have spotting units back here. Okay, now it looks like he does know, but this might be a little bit late. The good thing for him is that he did put his buildings a little bit far back from this cliff, so Leta can't just siege on this cliff and take down like all his buildings. But oh, it looks like actually Leta getting a little bit caught here. Oh man, so I guess the pullback was in time, so Leta just gonna have to siege up in a less than ideal position here and lose most of his units, although the Wraiths are going to come in here. Oh, it looks like Goliaths actually were sacrificed running up the ramp, so Classic going to have to wait for the second round of Goliaths to ward off those Wraiths. But while all this is going on, Leta's actually taking his 3rd base at the 6 o'clock. And it's actually quite nice, because a lot of players on this map will take the protected backmanner only. But taking a gas base, obviously much nicer in TVT. So it's gonna be really nice for Leta. So even though this attack is actually getting cleaned up, like, you know, it's keeping Classic back in his base. It's being quite annoying here, you know. Oh, picking off the odd siege tank. Looks like down to 1 Wraith. That Wraith has 8 kills. That's a lot of kills for a Wraith. And now Classic has cleaned everything up. He can start focusing on the front. Leta's got to be a little bit careful not to get too fancy with his harass, because he is in a slightly vulnerable state, having gone for the faster 3rd here, so he's got to just siege up a little bit. But no, looks like Classic also getting his 3rd base. Not going to try and be too aggressive here after defending that attack. And Leta's just going to set up a nice little tank line here between the bases. Notice that Leta sets his tank line up a little bit above his back door, so he's not at risk of Classic like pushing down here and sieging up those back power generators. Classic is just going to go for it though. He's going against a really well set up tank line, but not enough units there though. Even though it's like nicely positioned, there's just not that many tanks there. So actually it looks like Classic might be able to break through here. Yeah, he is going to clean up all the tanks on the bottom. There's a couple more tanks on the top there, but they're not quite in range. So it wasn't actually perfectly set up, I guess. Meanwhile, the dropship is coming back. That dropship is actually very, very versatile. He can do some counter vulture harass right now, or he can actually just drop units on top of those tanks. There's only 2 Goliaths there, so you can definitely get the drop over there. You'll probably lose the dropship, but if he wants to try and like break that position, that'd be quite handy. You know, we do have the starport with control tower on the way for Classic as well. He seems to be just going for the standard Goliath tank dropship style of play here. I mean, recently in TVT we've been increasingly seeing a lot of wraithing play, and not as much of this just you know, I don't want to say standard, but kind of more like the old standard of Goliath tank dropship, because nowadays wraiths seem to be more standard, and we've also seen a lot of like vulture plays and stuff. But Classic is just doing standard old style. And I think we're still in a fairly close position. Of course, Classic's natural is faster, but now Leta's 3rd is faster. And Classic actually now has the starport. He's got a science facility as well, but that's most likely just for upgrades. You do need the science facility to get +2 and up in your armory. And we have seen sometimes, and by sometimes I mean Fantasy has used science vessels to defense matrix leading tanks when you're trying to like break tank lines or advance your own tank line. You defense matrix the tank that's in front, and he tanks all of the initial siege tank shots of your opponent, and then you get a nice siege up position. It's like a really good idea in theory, and in practice as well, from what we've seen from Fantasy's TVTs. I mean, he used it very effectively in his OSL series semifinals against Flash, so I'm a little bit surprised that more players don't do this. Perhaps it's just a little bit too difficult. Kind of like with Queens and ZBT, it's just like it actually works quite well when you pull it off, but it's just ridiculously hard to do mechanically, so we don't see it from too many players. Anyway, it looks like 1-0 is finished for Leta. He's got +2 on the way. And 1-0 finished for Classic as well. And whoa! Hello! Big engagement at the top of Leta's main here. Looks like Leta is actually just going to crush this with tanks on all sides and Vultures surrounding the tanks, laying mines. Very, very nicely done. So Leta actually grabbing himself like a 20 supply lead right now. Classic getting his position completely broken there. And he's got to be careful because if Classic gets pushed back too far, his third base is actually going to be under attack. Oh, poor Engineering Bay. That'd be really funny if he just landed the last second and just burned down slowly. Quite sad, quite a sad end. Yeah, but I mean, as you can see on the minimap, you know, that 3 o'clock base is not very far from where Leta is already establishing a position. So Classic definitely has to be careful and leave, you know, sufficient defenses there to keep that base alive. It's a little bit better for Leta in that sense because, you know, Leta's third base is expanding away from his opponent, so that's much easier for him. I mean, it is perhaps slightly more vulnerable to like vulture harass and things like that, but overall it's a much more easily defendable position. And now Leta's actually pushing up to the 3 o'clock here, and Classic just doesn't seem to have enough stuff. I mean, the supplies are still fairly close here. It's only a 10 supply difference still, but Leta just seems to have a far superior position here. And some SCVs are going to have to be pulled, it looks like, just to tank a few tank shots. Leta, meanwhile, still has also established, oh my goodness, he's established a tank line in the middle of the map and is now double expanding to the bottom left, taking the bottom left main and natural here while all this is going on. Very, very bold expansions. But, you know, that's something that we often see in TVT. I mean, because in TVT, I mean, look at what Leta's building. He's building mostly siege tanks, right, and a few wraiths here and there, and some supporting vultures. But it's just a very, very gas-heavy army, so he's just got all these rare minerals. He's like, well, you know, I'll just dump this on command centers. Unfortunately for him, there was a drop going down here. And as I said, the 6 o'clock is a little bit more vulnerable to drops, so the thing is, he already dropped one of these vultures at the bottom left to kill the SCVs building those command centers. So that did tip Leta off to this dropship, and he was able to defend the SCVs at his 6 o'clock. Although it is going to delay those 2 expansions by quite a bit, though, and also let Classic know that they're there. So that is quite important. Meanwhile, Classic still doesn't seem to show any sign of expanding, even though he has established a tank line forward enough that he can just move out freely along the top side. So much. I mean, I'd expect him to be thinking about taking the 12 o'clock by now. It looks like not. Not sure why. I mean, he's already seen Leta double expanding, so you know, he can definitely invest in another command center. Maybe he's building it in his main. He's going to float it out. Actually, now that I look on the minimap, he might actually be building it in his main. Anyway, a lot of factories here. It looks like 4 machine shops for Leta. I think they just counted Classics just there, but I was too busy looking for bases and whatnot, so apologies for missing that. So I'm sure you guys can all count yourself. You guys are all well educated by by Sesame Street. So it looks like Leta's vultures are going to get cleaned up here. Pretty close exchange. Leta seeming to target fire a little bit better actually. But anyway. And looks like we have a turret being built in a minefield. That's probably quite dangerous. Anyway, so Leta's base finishes at the bottom left, or the natural one does, and the main base is finishing up as well. So Leta's about to go up to 5 bases all of a sudden, and Classic doesn't really have much to say about this. And Leta actually is the one attacking here, which is quite interesting. Leta not only expanding more aggressively, but also attacking here up the left side here. He is kind of going to push his position forward, but he loses all his support units, so it's a little bit more difficult now to push up, although he does have a far superior siege tank count, so maybe he's going to go for it anyway. And it looks like that 12 o'clock base is actually blocked by a spider mine underneath the command center, so the command center can't land. Classic is now building a command center at the top left main, but Classic might be in a bit of trouble because now Leta is really pushing these tank lines back. So Leta actually now has given himself an avenue for vultures to sneak around the left side and actually go to the top left just for free. Although it looks like Classic has now closed off that avenue of attack, and I believe is also double expanding himself now to the top left main and natural. So yeah, Classic barely kind of getting establishing that position in time, but if you just look at the minimap, I mean, Leta is definitely, it is still kind of split evenly. They're basically doing just a split map TVT now, but Leta's got a slightly more advanced position, and oh my goodness, he's just massing up those wraiths. Of course, he did already invest in that cloak, so that's quite nice. He doesn't seem to have invested in any air upgrades just yet, which he would probably like to do at some point. Of course, wraiths actually benefit quite a bit, at least in their ground attack, from the +1, or any upgrades really, because they only have 8 base damage, so every plus attack is a pretty good percentage increase in their DPS. And notice +2 attack is done for ground as well, so we now have that crucial upgrade. Tank wars are going to end a little bit quicker with that. But oh, look at this, it looks like Classic didn't actually extend the tank line far enough forward to cover his back door here, so actually this is going to allow Leta to just charge vultures in the back and kill everything. There is a turret back there actually blocking, I believe, walling things off, but now actually the cloak wraiths are coming out, and I don't know how much anti-air is actually on, with these tank lines of Classic. If he didn't leave enough turrets and or Goliaths, he could lose a lot of siege tanks now to these wraiths. And it looks like actually he left a few Goliaths, but these are just going to get targeted down by the wraiths, and now the entire tank line is vulnerable here. Classic immediately unsieging some of these tanks. He's got a single Valkyrie that is going to do a lot of damage to the clumped wraiths, but still has to be very, very careful. With only one Valkyrie there, it can get picked off quite easily by that group of wraiths. Leta also, I believe, has seen the Valkyrie, so he's going to know that he has to be careful with his wraiths as well. Meanwhile, it looks like Classic actually just going to defend that back door by sieging tanks on the inside, which does work as well. Especially since he sieged them all right up at that entrance. So we now just basically have a split map TVT here, but with Leta having a slightly more advanced position and also having gone for the wraith switch much earlier. We have seen in recent TVTs that players do love just adding on 1,000,000 starports in this situation and just going for wraiths. It has turned out well, sometimes not so well in the case of Sky High. But anyway, looks like Leta now going for an attack at the 3 o'clock. There is a very nice tank line, but not many units there. Just 5 tanks in a row there, not enough. Some reinforcements coming in, but Leta just slowly but surely pushing forward to try and take down this base. And even though this is Classic's 3rd, it looks like there's still quite a few resources here because he expanded so many times after that, since a lot of the SCVs away, I guess. So didn't really actually mine the space out very quickly. So losing this expansion is actually going to be a big deal for him, and he's going to have to pull the SCVs. He's kind of just having them sit there for some reason. Oh my god, he's going to use them for a break? Oh man, he's actually using the SCVs to break the tank line. I don't know if that's a good idea because he hasn't moved his own tanks far enough forward. But, I mean, they are going to cause a few friendly, not even a few friendly kills there. I think the initial ones did, but wow, sacrificing all those SCVs. Meanwhile, Leta seems to have forgotten a clump of his SCVs that he transferred to the bottom left there. I don't know why they're just sitting there on the side. Did he like send them over in a dropship or something? That doesn't even make sense because he's got like map control in the middle. Meanwhile, Leta now taking the 9 o'clock. So basically, both players have kind of taken all the expansions that they really want. I think it's like an extra mineral only here and there, but that doesn't really matter. And looks like this command center is also going to fall to the wraiths. The Valkyries, though, getting some pot shots off while the wraiths were shooting the command center. Oh man, he could kill a lot of these wraiths actually. The Valkyries doing a good job. And don't quite finish off the wraiths, but he did get a few kills there. Must have been like 5 wraiths killed or something. There's only 6 left. So well done by Classic. And now moving in once again here. Here's the counterattack. But the thing is, Leta doesn't care about this position anymore. I mean, that's why he didn't really bring in any support units. He's like, oh, well, you know, I already killed that expansion, so you can have this position back. It really doesn't mean anything to me. But no, he is actually going to move back here. I mean, the thing is, if Leta can actually deny that 3 o'clock from Classic, that'll actually be quite important. Because what often happens in these, you know, these drawn-out tank wars, these split map situations, is if you can actually find a little edge to push into one of these side expansions, like, basically, oh my goodness, there is the big wraith switch. As I was saying, players often like to go for this mass starport explosion in the late game when they have a lot of money banked. You know, when they're maxed on the ground already. You just do a mass wraith switch, and it is pretty awesome. Of course, even though wraiths individually don't exactly do a lot of damage, because they are air units, they use stack, so you can actually get a lot of how do I call it? I guess like a high density of damage output. you just like focus all of your wraiths on like one area that obviously ground units can't do the same because they can't stack. So even though the individual wraith DPS isn't very much, just the mobility and the fact that you can stack them all makes them extremely deadly. Meanwhile, I don't really see any transition from Classic yet, so this is going to be quite interesting. That is so many starports. Oh my goodness. Anyway, looks like Leta going to send a few more dudes over to the 9 o'clock. Classic about to reestablish that 3 o'clock base. And doesn't look like Leta is actually going to focus too much on attacking it anymore. Of course, because Leta doesn't really want to make ground units anymore. He wants to save up that supply and make and just make a bunch of starports. Leta, I mean, look at the bottom left or bottom right, by the way. Leta's up at 6,000 minerals and over 2,500 gas. And look at this, we actually have the mass starport transition from Classic as well at the top left. He hasn't built quite as many starports as Leta has. And of course, well, because of course he doesn't actually have enough as much bank. And I'm not sure about his Wraith control. I mean, Leta, I am absolutely confident in Leta's Wraith play. Leta has fantastic Wraith play. That's one of the things he's known for. Classic, on the other hand, not so much. So I feel like if you're going toe-to-toe against Leta, making Wraiths against Wraiths is probably not your best option. But I guess we'll see here. I mean, this isn't really the best map for battle cruisers. I mean, if you poke along the left or right sides, maybe you can make something happen, but the middle of the map is very, very open. It's a little bit dangerous. So going for the mass Wraith thing, I guess, is optimal, but I would not choose to do that against Leta. And oh, it looks like Classic has not chosen to do that either. He's going battle cruisers, ladies and gentlemen. He must be going battle cruisers. Where's his science facility? Like, look at the observer like trying to find a science facility with a physics lab. And he's just like, I can't find it. I mean, it died earlier, right? His science facility got picked off earlier by wraiths. And he doesn't seem to have remade it anywhere. Does he just not realize that he can't make battle cruisers without a physics lab? I don't know. Either way, these wraiths are going to start going crazy here. And by the way, that's also why he didn't make that many starports. I thought it was because he didn't have as much money as Leta, which is true, but it's also because he's awesome and is going battle cruisers. He actually is probably going to make a round of Valkyries first. I think that's what he's making right now. As you can see, the science facility doesn't have a physics lab yet, but because there's all those wraiths there, making just BCs could be a little bit dangerous. So he's going to make one round of Valkyries and then make BCs, I think, and that's a very good idea. Meanwhile, Grand Army is just poking around here. Not too much they can do now. Of course, Terran is so good defensively on the ground with their siege tank positions with mines and turrets and whatnot. And looks like here is the the SCV trade. Oh man, this is like one of those hostage exchange situations. This is like the beginning of that James Bond movie. Which one was it? It was like the one with the crazy North Korean guy, and like. And that really hot British lady, Miranda Frost? Was that it? I can't remember. But that movie. And then like at the beginning of the movie, they're on the bridge because Bond got captured, and then like they have the prisoners walk toward each other at the same time. So like the North Korean guy walks one way, and then like Bond walks the other way, and then like they get him back. He's all angry because like he's like, why did you save me? Bah! And then like he makes out with the nurse or something. Man, James Bond's pretty awesome. Anyway, apparently it was Die Another Day. Okay, thank you. Did I miss anything while thinking about that? No, not really. I mean, there's a bunch of wraiths. I mean, this is like your standard BGH game, basically. It's like team mono battles, right? It's like Leta can only make wraiths now, and Classic can only make Valkyries. Hey Leta, got starports? You got enough starports there, buddy? I don't know. I think you can do with a couple more. He's building one control tower on one of them. I guess he wants to mix in like 2% wraith or 2% Valkyries rather. He doesn't want to just have pure wraiths, because that's not interesting. You got to sprinkle in a few Valkyries for flavor. All right. So there is finally the physics lab. I believe he's researching Yamato. I don't know what he's researching from the science facility though. I'm like trying to think. Is that EMP? He could be getting EMP to EMP the wraiths. So that's like not quite that useful, because he'll like have cloak. What else would you be getting from the science facility though? It must be EMP. I can't think of anything else that you'd get. Alright, just gonna say it's EMP. Anyway, so this is actually gonna end up being some kind of crazy endgame engagement. For some reason, Classic is actually just, well, actually no, not for some reason, but Classic actually dropped down a lot of supplies so you could fill it up on battle cruisers, and there we go. There are the 1-1 BCs coming out. Oh man, this is gonna be crazy. BC Valkyrie versus just mass Wraith. I have a feeling that BC Valkyrie is actually gonna own Leta. I think Leta's actually in a lot of trouble right now. Like, you'd think that Leta's ahead right now. Also, looking at his bank, he's got so much bank. That's why he has so many starports. But Leta's mass Wraith doesn't work against Valkyrie battlecruiser. Battlecruisers are just really good, obviously. They'll tank a lot of damage, they have a pretty good DPS, but more importantly, the Valkyries in like with that many Valkyries, in like 3 volleys, all of the Wraiths will just disappear. They will actually just vanish. So I'm a little bit nervous about Leta having that many Wraiths. Like, he is getting battlecruisers of his own now. It looks like he's thinking about switching, but this is like a much later switch, so he's going to be down on the battlecruiser count. And those aren't really the important things either. It's like losing all these Wraiths will just be really, really bad. Yeah, those SCVs getting stuck, by the way, is also very, very bad because obviously he wants to free up that supply to build other things because he does have almost 10,000 minerals and 5,000 gas. So Leta's actually massing up here on the left side. I mean, neither player is really committing to an attack either way because both players know that, you know, the defending player is probably going to have an advantage here. But it looks like Leta's had enough. He's going to go in. He's leading with the raids. He's going in with the dropships as well. Going to do a concerted attack here. And there's the big drop. Full of siege exile. I'm a little bit surprised he didn't bring any Goliaths. 3-3 battlecruisers going to come take him out though. Oh man, and here we go. He sees all the starports with control towers. He must know now if he didn't already. He probably did know already what was going on. Considering both players have like, you know, 6 comsat stations or something. But here we go, the tank's sieging up, and the battlecruiser is actually completely out of position though. Oh, but that's 2-2 by the way, not 3-3. Sorry. My mistake. But, oh man, those battlecruisers are completely out of position. The Valkyries are in position, but they have to wait for the BCs. The Valkyries cannot go by themselves. A good race spread can actually pick them off quite easily. But, oh man, it looks like Leta actually brought some SCVs with him. He's starting to build turrets here at the top end. Oh, the Valkyrie's actually just going to go in! And oh man, he's actually pulling them back! Is it going to be enough? Look at this, actually doing some nice Valkyrie control here. By pulling the race back, you force them to clump more. If you just engage them directly head on, it's much easier to have them fan out a little bit. But if you just move back slightly, do like a little scoot and shoot, the race will actually all clump up even more trying to pursue you. But anyway, looks like the battlecruisers have returned. Although Classic has actually lost all of his starports. Oh my god, it looks like he just did not lift any of these, but obviously because lifting them would mean the race could just come in and pick everything off. But it looks like it's going to use Yamato cannons actually to pick off these siege tanks, so he doesn't have to advance too far forward here. He does have that one science vessel rather there. Could potentially do defense matrices on his on the battlecruisers that get targeted, or just do an EMP on the race to prevent them from cloaking anymore. Even though cloaking, as I said, isn't the biggest deal in the world because both players have so many comsat stations. But it looks like Classic is going to reestablish this position, but that was actually very, very expensive for him. He does not have that much bank. I mean, he's got 2,000 minerals, which, you know, usually counts as a lot, but in this super late game TBT situation, that's really not that much money. So that makes me a little bit nervous. Meanwhile, Leta is still having issues with these SCVs stuck behind his mineral only. And, well, looks like, oh man, the race now coming into the right side, and this is the danger in battlecruisers. They're so immobile here. The Valkyries can potentially come over, but Valkyrie's not quite as fast as Wraiths either, and they're just actually going to pick off all of these turrets, in fact. But oh no, the Goliaths come in, and Leta's not paying attention. He's going to lose a lot of these Wraiths. What is he doing? Leta's not paying attention. Ah, that was painful. Although now he can just remax some battlecruisers, so I guess that's not so bad. Always look at the bright side of life. I didn't just throw away 10 Wraiths. I cleared up supply to make battlecruisers. That's right, that's what I did. So, although having said that, he did just make more Wraiths. So you can't even like pretend it was on purpose anymore. It's like, you know how some Protosses, they accidentally make 2 forges really early, so they just upgrade on both and pretend it was on purpose. It's like Leta, if he made battlecruisers now, he could have pretended that losing those Wraiths was on purpose. But now that he's remade them as Wraiths, now it's just like, oh, well, clearly that was just bad. Silly Leta. Anyway, like observer showing us that the armors are actually not spinning here. So he's, I mean, he doesn't have max upgrades on either ground or air. He's at 2-2 air, 3-1 ground, and not upgrading anymore. But Classic's actually pushing forward with a really strong composition here. He's got a lot of Goliaths. The Wraiths, even though they have, you know, that are capable of stacking up and doing a lot of that burst damage, it's just, that's a lot of Goliaths. And even though the Goliaths don't stack, because they all have such insanely long range, they'll all be able to shoot the Wraiths anyway. Like, this ground army is actually just cleaning everything up in the middle of the map. I'm a little bit nervous for Leta, but look at this. Leta's actually expanding to the 3 o'clock here. He's actually going to take Classic space here, and that's actually going to be so crucial because it was a split map situation, but if Leta can actually take this expansion, he's actually going to be ahead going into the late game in the overall resources mined. That is so important here. Another important thing, by the way, is that Classic is so short on minerals. It's like he's actually got 4,000 gas and not even 1,000 minerals here. Leta, meanwhile, has actually more minerals, has a much better mineral gas balance. Like, it's actually better to have more minerals in the late game, even though the early, you know, the mid game and, you know, I guess early late game, if that makes sense, TBT is all about the gas. But once you get to the super late game, I think it's actually more important to have more minerals saved, because your gas is never going to stop mining, right? Even when Vespene geysers deplete, you just keep mining gas. So it actually becomes more important, I think, to make sure you use your minerals wisely, because those will actually run out when the map mine's out. And we did recently see a TBT between Sky High and I can't remember who. It might actually have even been Classic. Was it Classic? No, it was Sky High versus somebody on Sniper Ridge. But the map actually did get mined out, and Sky High just actually found himself, even though he was in a good position for a lot of the game, because he did very cost inefficient engagements, actually going Mass Wraith in fact against Battlecruiser, he actually just ended up losing. So, well, neither player is seeming to make much headway, except, I mean, that 3 o'clock position. I don't know why Classic isn't counterattacking there and taking it. Like, he's actually focusing everything on the left here. Oh man, it looks like Classic's like, well, if you're going to take my 3 o'clock base, I'm just going to take your 9 o'clock base. And the 3 o'clock has been mining more, so if he gets a 9 o'clock, that'd be really, really nice. Oh man, has to be so careful with the Valkyries. That is so many Wraiths here, but the Valkyries with their splash damage don't care about the numbers. And it looks like the Wraith's actually just going to run straight past into the top left here. Oh my goodness, just ignoring everything here. Leta now actually going to pick off one of these battlecruisers that popped out from the starport. The Valkyries trying to get a good position, but as I said, they have to have the Wraiths to support them. They cannot just go in by themselves against the Wraiths. The Valkyries need those battlecruisers, which are just so slow. I mean, Leta's playing this game really, really well, playing it completely differently from Sky High. In fact, if you look at the way he's using these Wraiths, really avoiding these direct engagements with the Valkyries and the battlecruisers, just using the mobility here to pick off expansions and pick off structures. But it looks like Leta is in fact going to lose his 9 o'clock base as well, so essentially a base trade on the side bases here, the 3 o'clock for the 9 o'clock, but the Wraiths actually continuing to go in here, do damage to the infrastructure, picking off more of these starports. I mean, Classic already lost a lot earlier in the drop. These Goliaths trying to come back to help out, but they're just not able to get back here because of the architecture of the map. The Wraiths now going to flee to through the top side of the map. They're actually going to pick off a few of these Valkyries first as well. They got to be careful though. The battlecruisers are coming in here. He's going to lose a good number of these Wraiths. The Goliaths coming in as well. Leta's got to be very, very careful. The Wraiths getting a little bit trapped here, and now he's actually going to go for the engagement. He's actually just going for it. There's the defense matrix on the leading battlecruiser, but actually a lot of the Valkyries did go down already. The Goliaths not quite all in position, and actually Leta going to pick off a lot of these battlecruisers, and the Classic cannot afford to remake this. He's lost most of his starports. He's only got the 3 starports left at the top left. I think he's got 1 or 2 in his main base as well, but that is not nearly enough, and losing the majority of his battlecruisers there. Leta doing a great move here, even though Leta dropping actually below Classic in supply. He's got so much money banked and so many starports that he can just, in like 2 or 3 rounds of production, remax immediately. So, man, Leta actually using these Wraiths really, really well. I'm actually so impressed. I mean, I already said earlier that Leta was in trouble because the unit compositions were so much better for Classic, having all those Valkyries and battlecruisers, but Leta actually just maneuvering his Wraiths perfectly to take that down. Man, I am actually kind of shocked at how effective that was. I mean, mass Valkyries usually own Wraiths like that, but just able to keep picking off Valkyries and not taking too much splash there, splitting up. I mean, if you notice, he was actually letting like most of his Wraiths go and attack one base or a building, and then just pulling off like one control group to go engage the Valkyries. So not attacking with everything at a time, because of the way the Valkyrie attack works, like it doesn't matter if you have like 1 Wraith or 10 Wraith in a clump. Like the Valkyrie does the same amount of damage to all of them. So it's better to just engage it with smaller groups like that and minimize the splash damage. Anyway, it looks like Classic actually now going to the 3 o'clock. So Classic actually, having just killed the 9 o'clock, has actually also sent his ground army to take the 3 o'clock. And Leta, he has jumped back ahead in supply. I don't know where actually all his supply is. Looks like he's got a few siege tanks at his natural queue. He's actually, where is he actually going? I'm not actually sure where either of these places is going. Looks like Classic actually is going to pull back after denying the 3 o'clock once again. And Leta's actually moving his ground army up the left side. For some reason, Leta actually was not concerned about Classic's ground army at all. I guess he must have scanned it and seen the army was pulling back, and that's why he decided he can move to the left side. But that's actually quite interesting. Meanwhile, it looks like Leta's actually just resuming ground production. Leta's actually not remaxing in wraiths. I guess I guess he has a ton of wraiths already anyway, but Leta now retaking the 9 o'clock base. I think both players, actually neither player really getting mined out just yet. If you look at the expos on the map, a lot of them still have minerals there because both players sacked so many SCVs already that yeah, they're just not mining out very quickly. But if you look at the bank now, Classic is at only 300 minerals and only 150 supply here. Classic, I think, might have sacked his SCVs too soon, or I guess just couldn't hold on to his bases, because now Classic actually is in a pretty tough spot here where he's actually not maxed anymore, but he's also not got the bank to remax. So he's kind of in an awkward position, and he can't catch these wraiths. And I don't know how he's going to deal with these wraiths now. I mean, you know, he can't reproduce all these Valkyries. Even if he reproduces battle cruisers, they're just not going to be able to catch up. And he's just going to lose everything here. Oh man, the wraiths coming in just annihilating the SCVs. Going to be able to even pick off the command center. I mean, look how quickly they're killing that command center. They're doing like 8 damage a shot. Oh, actually, I guess they're +3, so they're doing like 11 damage a shot though. Still, that's like they're actually doing as much damage as an Arbiter does. All right, a freaking Arbiter can do as much damage as those wraiths. But there's just so many of them, just insta-shotting that command center. Insta-shotting, one-shotting, insta-killing. I don't know. Anyway, ground army now moving in though. Oh man, it looks like Classic is like, all right, enough is enough. If you're just gonna run around and just like kill all my expos, he's just going to push and counterattack here. I mean, he knows his army isn't mobile enough to defend, so he's just going for it. He's just going to rely on the stronger composition, but I don't know if that's a good idea here. I mean, Leta's just going through clearing all the expansions here, although all of Leta's starports are down here though. He needs to start lifting them. He needs to start like a mass lift. Yeah, he is going to lift a few of them. He needs to lift more though. He's only lifted 4. Come on, Leta, lift your starports. You need to save those starports, man. Those are really expensive. Lift all the starports. Lift them. This is actually going to turn into some kind of weird base trade. Oh my goodness. The problem is, though, that Classic is actually attacking Leta's expansions here, whereas Leta's actually attacking the main. So Classic is actually going to lose all of his infrastructure, and Leta's going to keep all of his, because there's no way that Classic can actually do a factory float because of all those wraiths there. And oh no, another round of production is actually just going to get caught as it pops. Some Goliaths actually getting caught in the Sim City there as well, but you see, Leta can actually just save most of those starports. Well, actually, now the Valkyries come in, maybe he can't. But Leta obviously still has all the buildings in his main base, whereas Classic is going to lose his whole main. And I think killing an expansion is not really worth losing your entire main base for. Leta obviously also with a huge bank can actually reproduce quite easily. So I think Leta's actually kind of got this game here. Classic just doesn't really realize how far behind he is. He still thinks that it's possible to get some kind of favorable base trade going, but it's really not. And the wraiths are actually coming back now. If you look at the minimap, all the wraiths just went back here, and oh my god, they're actually going to pick off some of these battle cruisers. Oh no, it looks like, oh no, Classic was completely out of position. Nice defense matrix, but look at that! Just instantly killing it anyway, even with the D matrix on the battle cruiser. The wraiths just had so much damage output that it didn't even matter, and now all of the factory is going to get picked off here. No way to reproduce anything for Classic here. Classic now just has to win with his army that he's got, or he's just dead. I mean, he's got basically no income. He's got 179 minerals anyway, so even if he had the infrastructure, he could not reproduce anything. He's got 2,000 gas. That's not going to really help him. I mean, Leta's bank is kind of falling. He's dropped below 3,000 minerals, but he's re-expanding to the 9 o'clock. I think he actually misplaced that. It's not gonna attach itself to the concept. It's not. He built it 1 hex too low, I think, but that's all right. But yeah, I mean, looks like Classic actually can come back and deny that. Actually, gonna force a cancel on that 9 o'clock. But you know, Leta's up at 182 supply. He can just max out with an extra bit of money, and Classic has to win with 100 supply worth of units, and that's just not going to be possible here. So I think we're just going to have one final engagement, one last stand of Classic, and that's probably going to be it here. Looks like Classic just going to siege up here at the 9 o'clock here. I don't know why he's doing that, because he can't. he doesn't have a command center there. He's just like holding a position that doesn't make, like, doesn't give him any benefit. Oh, it looks like he actually saved the command center somehow. I don't know where that came from, but he actually saved it and is actually retaking the 9 o'clock. So I guess he's going to try mining there a little bit, maybe sneak a base over here. He's got a few random SCVs here and there, but you know, he's below 100 supply. He's got really almost no money to even make SCVs. And there's the Wraiths just fanning out. Oh, well, thought they were just going to go spread out and kill all the rest of the buildings, but I don't know. I mean, it's just actually impossible for Classic to win now. It's just we're waiting for him to realize that he's dead, so he'll just leave the game. Because this game is just completely over. It's like maxed against 90 supply, huge bank against no bank, and buildings against no buildings. And well, it looks like actually the army of Classic is going to push in here, going to do a good job cleaning up the rest of these units. But oh my god, the Wraiths are coming in here. How much anti-air is left? Here we go. There's like 6 Valkyries, 7 Valkyries, and those are going to be the key here. Where's the... is there any focus fire on the Valkyries? It looks like it doesn't even matter. Oh god, the Wraiths is taking everything. GG! Leta takes out Classic in game number 1 in an epic TVT there. Wow, what a way to start off the day. What a crazy long TVT. But Leta just showing his dominance with Wraiths. And CJ taking game number 1. Is Onester attempting to do the Gangnam style dance? That's kind of weird. Yeah, Leta. Woo! Oh! Backflip Leta.